So you lost your dream internship.
Right.
Okay.
Over this story. And so again, it all starts where I'm in college. I'm at University of Maryland. I'm a junior, and I'm like, okay, this is the summer where I'm going to get this internship at Comedy Central, right? Every comedy producer's dream. I apply to the development internship, and I have a great phone interview, and the night before the phone interview, I'm like, okay, I should really prepare. And then I got a notification that the Career Center at Maryland they were doing a whole like speed networking event, and I'm like, oh, I'll go to the Career Center.
Like instead of speed dating, it's speed networking?
Yeah, it's a really weird concept where, like, again, you stand still and different sort of like professionals will like give you like networking advice to like students, and it's a little helpful, but right in this story,
and very stressful, I would think.
Of course, so
like, right, because when you're that age, you're like, this is gonna make me or break me, right?
Yeah,
and the pressure. The
pressure is immense, and I get there. I tell them I have this interview tomorrow, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" And I get like a lot of, sort of the generic pieces of advice, research and write a handwritten thank you note. And it's like all these stuff that you've heard like 1,000 times. And then I had one person who was like, "You should come armed with a fun fact, right, about the person or the company, and it would be great if you found something about the person and you were able to bring it up in a conversation to show you really did research." And I'm like, yeah, that's such a great idea. So I Google this person that I'm interviewing with, and I find his college essay, published in the Chicago Tribune, from like 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And it's about his grandfather who was, a pick yourself up by your bootstrapped, immigrant, and really, just a really sort of like well-rounded individual, right?
Yeah.
Immigrant story, like feel-good nature. So we're in the interview and we're talking. We're 20 minutes in. We're talking about, what is good writing. And I go, actually, I stumbled upon an article about this, this pick yourself up by your bootstrap immigrant. And, I reference it, and the guy's like, "Oh my God, that's so funny." Like, he can't believe it. He thought it was so funny that I brought up this story.
And good for you, how you brought it up in kind of a slick way.
I thought it was pretty slick.
I thought that's pretty slick, right? Speaking of good writing, well, I just happened to come upon this.
It slapped me in the face. My assistant threw it to me. Right? Like,
my assistant. I'm a junior in college, but I do have an assistant. He's a freshman, and I have him chained to the radiator right now.
Oh my God! Exactly.
Shut up, Billy. Yeah. So
exactly.
So you say this. You're kind of smooth.
I'm kind of smooth. It goes over great. Interview ends. A week passes, 2 weeks pass. I'm like, okay, this is great. A month passes, and I'm like, I think I should probably, hear something. And, another reason why I was able to sort of, even get this interview is, right, it's my professor whose former student is working at the company. And so I end up, I'm in class with my professor, and he says, "Adam, why don't you stay after for a couple minutes?" And I'm like, okay. So I talk to him. I go, "What's going on?" And he goes, "You fucked up. You creeped him out. You brought up a story about his grandfather. You like completely blew it. They liked you. They really liked you, and you creeped him out. Like, why would you bring that up?"
Oh my God.
And again,
you're as you're telling me this, my palms are sweating. Like, I'm like, how would you? I mean, I can see that, but how would you know?
How would you know? And I replayed it in my mind over and over again. I'm convinced I lost. If you saw a picture of me 5 years ago, you would know that I lost hair over this situation.
That's so unfair.
I know, and I was like talking to my family about it, and it really upset me, and obviously, like, you know, I sort of lost my dream internship that way.
Well,
and
when your professor said that to you, what did you say? Did you go?
Oh no, I completely defended it. I was like, I was so sly, and my assistant brought it up, and I blamed the assistant changing the radiator. Really.
Yeah, you gotta throw. That's why we have assistants, so we can just throw them under the bus,
Throw
right?
them under the bus.
Yeah. So wow.
Yeah, I mean.
So keep going. I interrupted you.
No. I was just gonna say that the sort of the end of the story is that obviously, like, you know, everything is, you know, worked out one way or another, and I've run into this person. I haven't officially introduced myself because I'm terrified to do so.
So you've run into Mr. You know, the guy who interviewed you, acted like it was kind of cool, and then turns out he, you know, wanted to get an order of protection because he thought you were creepy. Totally.
I'm terrified to, you know, to bring this up and even talk about it with him, but you know, he's someone he's in the industry, he's in the world, and I see him I used to see him at, like, you know, live shows and parties, and it's part of me, you know, I would have to get really, really drunk, but, like, you know, part of me definitely wants to, like, bring it up, but it's something that, like, you know, it brings back a lot of emotions. Now I can laugh about it and I can talk about it, you know, on podcasts, but at the time, right? I mean, I thought that was it. And again, you know as well as I do just how competitive not only these internships, these entry-level jobs, and
please let me work for you for no money.
Right.
Please let me bring you coffee, right? Yeah. And then to get rejected from that, it's so disheartening.
Right. At the same time, you know, like, would I've had an easier sort of climb if I had gotten that internship? Maybe, you know, probably. But the first job I did have in New York, you know, and it's definitely a fun story. I worked at Caroline's on Broadway, the comedy club, as a waiter.
Hello. Much better stories.
Much better stories.
Right? Come on. How iconic. Caroline's is so iconic compared